All right, friends, today we are moving on with the next step of decorating and adding our designs to our Dia de los Muertos skulls. These should be elaborately decorated, just like the sugar skull candies that are part of the Dia de los Muertos celebration. You can also just think about some of the skulls that were made as well in honor of ancestors that have passed. And in doing so, we're looking at those Mexican folk art inspired designs that we're going to add in. I want you to think about the bright colors that we saw as we looked at some of the work. I want you to think about all of the flowers that we saw that were incorporated, in particular, thinking about maybe some marigolds. And then I want you to think about how you're going to fill in with some other designs within your work. So it's kind of your choice, the direction you want to go in. And as always, I've got that whole folder of resources for you to look at some other examples of sugar skulls and Mexican folk art to help you along the way. Right now, I want to show you just kind of my finished project and some next steps on moving forward. At this point in your project, you should have seen the lesson. So you learned about Dia de los Muertos, and you went ahead and saw quite a few examples within our work, and you did some practice. You should have sketched out a couple ideas for the designs you might add to your skull, as well as sketched out your skull with some practice in your sketchbook, and then went ahead and put it down with pencil on your black piece of paper. So that's where I'm at right now, and let's go ahead and show you a few ideas of how to move forward. All right, so I wanted to show you the finished example piece that I started with. It turned out, I think, pretty well. There's a few things that I thought that maybe if I could go back and do it differently, I might. And that's a good thing for us to always take stock in when we're looking at our art. For me, I feel like the cheeks are a little lopsided. This one sticks out a little bit more. It's kind of pointier. And I feel like my face is a little skinny. I might want it to be a little wider. But really, we saw so many different shaped skulls. So even though this one maybe isn't my favorite, I still think that it's appropriately shaped for the assignment. And I'm really proud of quite a few places in it as well. I love the way that my huge flower turned out on the top, and I like the little designs, and I love the way that the teeth turned out as well. So I hope that as you're completing each assignment that you do in art, that you're able to notice, hey, if I did this again, here's the areas that I might try to improve upon, and here are the things I think I did really well. Those are important lessons for us to look at after we finish each of our assignments, whether it was our circular weaving or our sugar skull here. So on my paper, you can see that you can hopefully see the light outline I sketched out with my pencil, and you can see that it pretty well fills my paper. That's extremely important for this lesson, that you have a piece of paper that is filled. Trying to do a teeny tiny skull on this paper makes no sense. Remember, I give you the size paper that's appropriate for this lesson and for completing this assignment. If I wanted you to make a teeny tiny skull, I would give you a teeny tiny piece of paper. So make sure your skull is filling your paper. All right, I'm gonna need my oil pastels for this as well. I would recommend using something for reference as you're drawing some of your designs. So whether that means on your computer you've pulled up one of the examples that I had, or maybe you have another reference that you want to look at. But always looking at a point of reference for your work is going to make it turn out a little bit better. It is hard to task our brains with imagining something and also creating it at the same time. So sometimes looking at something, finding the image that you like, and then working to put that down on your paper can make that process a little easier. So I have this book that served as a little bit of some inspiration for me. I think I said that the flower on the top of my skull was like my favorite piece. And hopefully you see where I kind of got that idea from, how I use that as reference. Okay, so it's similar, it's not identical, but it did help me to get started on my piece. So that's the point of using something for reference. It's not to copy it exactly, but it's to give you some starting points and something to look at and to guide you as you work. So the recommended way to work is to sketch out with pencil first some of the places that you're going to add designs, at least specifically the larger places where you might add designs. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so I went ahead and put a few things on here. I did kind of this Aztec inspired design here that I kind of pulled from my book here. I did add some flowers because flowers are kind of traditional design in Mexican folk art, as well as I added my marigolds that are going to go inside the eye socket here. I've seen that in a lot of sugar skulls, these elaborate decorations that are happening inside the skull there. So I wanted, or inside the eye socket there. So I wanted to add that. So there's still a few more opportunities for me to add stuff in, but I want you to go ahead and put a handful of bigger items and plot them on your paper first. I'm going to show you a few things about adding color to your work, and then I'm going to leave you to busy yourselves on your own. So some of these colors are going to show up better on paper than others. One thing you can do to brighten up your colors is definitely to add white to them. The blues and the greens do show up pretty nicely. The yellow, orange, and red just need a little bit of extra help to be nice and vibrant, but you can certainly see that I got a lot of vibrancy on my piece here with those colors still. So there's definitely opportunities for that. So as you're coloring, I suggest that you kind of color in these short little lines, almost like little circles. So kind of might feel a little like scribbling as you're applying it, but you're doing it in very small strokes that keep it nice and controlled, unlike scribbling. I would not start with your white sections. I would start with your color sections. And then what you want to do is you want to start adding white kind of as you go. That worked really well for me. I also would love to see you do some blending. Blending is going to let you create some really nice tonal shades within your work and add a little bit more interest. And it just looks really beautiful when you do it. When you're applying your oil pastel, I like to do it a little bit on the side. That helps me to keep it, instead of really flat, round surface, it's going to help keep some semblance of a point, which is going to allow me to get some finer details. You know, these don't have a skinny, super skinny point in the same way that your your colored pencils might. But if you use them just on the side and kind of keep rotating them around, you can wear them down into creating more of a point so that you can get a little finer application. But obviously, as you're creating your details in your sugar skull and your design, keep in mind that the material, they should be designed for the material that you're working with. And in this case, the material that you're working with is not going to allow for super duper fine details. You can see I'm overlapping a little bit, and when you overlap your oil pastels, it naturally kind of picks it up and blends in the color. Creating small circular strokes really does pick up and blend that color together even more. So if you're looking to truly get a nice blend, doing a little circular application is the way to go. I would love to see a nice application of the white part of your skull so that it fills the paper as much as possible. All right, I'm going to show you one or two other things here. Your black oil pastel is a great thing to go back and you can add some details in. And see, unless I'm really going to be doing that circular blending, it does layer on top nicely. Okay. I want to show you a little bit about using some of these lighter colors on the black paper. And different types of oil pastels have different ratios of the pigment to oil, and so they show up differently. You might have other oil pastels at home. You're welcome to use those in your application that might show up differently on the paper. These ones are a little bit lighter on this paper. They don't show up nearly as vibrant, but you know, adding white in will lighten up and brighten those colors. So will using the light peach will lend itself nicely to, again, brightening up those colors. So putting down my color, small circles to blend in some white, and then going back with my color to, again, brighten that color back up. And then I can use my black and add in details and even deepen the black around it to, again, help make it stand out and pop. All right, I still have a lot of work to do. I can't wait to see how yours end up and the details and inspiration you choose to create your Dia de los Muertos skull. If you have questions, go ahead and shoot me a message, or check out the reference materials, or repeat any videos that you need that might help you along the way. I can't wait to see when you have a finished project. I made my husband sit down and make one with me the other night, so this is his finished project. I can't wait to see what yours look like. I think we'll have a pretty awesome collection when everybody completes this project.